Organizers say that they want to bring democracy back into the election process here in the city of Bridgeport, and they say that it starts with an election monitor.
Every single person who lives here and goes to those polls, the will of that voter should be counted.
Bridgeport Generation Now, a voters' rights advocacy group ensuring the public their votes are safe. During this week's special session, lawmakers passed an act aimed at securing absentee ballots. This legislation allows cities to open up the outer envelope of an absentee ballot 5 days early for processing and installs an election monitor in Bridgeport, which will be reporting under the Secretary of State's office until the end of the year. The monitor will basically be looking for issues around processes and procedures to make sure everything is done to a standard during the November election, which one state senator says is needed.
I want you to know that people recognize what's going on in Bridgeport and the things that are taking place, and they want us to be able to be a city that we can be proud of.
Organizers say Bridgeport has a history of absentee ballot fraud and abuse. Just last year, the voting rights advocacy group challenged the mayoral primary election results in Connecticut's Supreme Court case Lazar versus Ganim. It alleged that election results in the 2019 primary were unreliable. Those election results were finalized after review.
This is about every voter in Bridgeport making sure that when they do a ballot or when they vote, that it's fair and it's honest and it has integrity.
Although the election monitor has not been named yet, organizers say they will make sure every ballot cast is done correctly.
We are going to fix this democracy one step at a time. We will not let up, because when we vote, we win. We will clean up this city, I promise you.
Going forward, what organizers want is an election monitor that will be here longer than the end of this year. We're in Bridgeport. Brian Ditlake, Fox 61 News.